Fitness family, what is up? Sorry for the delay there. Man, it's been a minute since we've been on a live mic, and I needed to make it happen this week. My partner in crime, Chance Porter, is not with me. He had some other things that pulled him away this week. We've got a lot going on as a coaching staff. He's got a lot going on in his gym. I've got a lot going on in my gym, and it's been a very busy last couple months. The last time that we left you, I believe that there was a lot going on. We were talking about quarterfinals and semifinals in the season. And we've had so many athletes that participate in semifinals. I'm actually far beyond being behind on even showing those athletes love and recognition through the semifinal levels. We had athletes in person through the age group semifinals, at Magic City Games. We had them at California at Legends. We had them online. We had athletes qualify to the CrossFit Games in the meantime, both from an in-person perspective and on an online platform and from an age group perspective. So True Fitness is cranking and rolling. We recently just dropped the introduction to the hybrid coaching model, where we've got a list of clients that are already live and scheduled there for discovery calls there on what it entails, what it might be like, and why they should consider it. And, I'm here to just let you guys know that today I wanted to jump on just to touch base, because I need to be in the habit of flexing this muscle of being in front of you and talking through some things to catch up. But I need to get back to the discipline established for podcasting, getting back there. One of the goals for me from a business perspective was to have 52 episodes this year. So I'm a little bit behind and I've got some work to do. And so this episode is going to act as an opportunity to be a catch up or a makeup episode to let you guys know what we have going on and what's going on. So first and foremost, congratulations to David Jensen, Sheena Hammer, Rachel Noel, and Rochelle Hudson, all going to the CrossFit Games, all True Fitness individual design athletes, all of them for years. And I think that's the beauty behind it. True Fitness became a thing in 2023 officially. Of course, those of you that know me and follow me know that I've been coaching in this space since 2011. I've had the hand in programming for many games athletes, teams, age groups, and individual athletes, some of which are historical in our sport. I'm very honored through my years at Brute Strength Training from when we founded that company in 2014 all the way up into 2021, really. And then, of course, I just started to start my own thing in 2023. So here we are. And these are a lot of these athletes are first fruits for me of getting to experience them before they were even semifinal level athletes, and now punching their ticket to be some of the fittest people on earth is a tremendous blessing. I also qualified to the CrossFit Games this year, but I recently withdrew and made that public knowledge that I initially signed up to do it because I didn't know who was going to qualify from an individual and team perspective from our camp. I knew that Dava had already qualified. I knew that Sheena had already qualified. I knew that I qualified. My intentions there were to have Chans out at the games, myself out at the games. He would going to kind of help us all out. I was going to be involved with Sheena and Dave as much as I could to support them, but we were going to do it as a team effort. It was going to be fun. We were going to crush it on the Legends side. And then I was going to head over and do commentary at the CrossFit Games. And to be honest, the backstory there is that Rachel, through her efforts at NorCal, absolutely slaughtered the weekend. Had some learning experiences that I'd love to have her on a podcast that we'll talk through. But Rachel is one of the athletes that I've worked with for several years now. And she punched her ticket to an individual semifinal in 2023 and then missed out in 2024. Got an opportunity to punch her ticket again in 2025 and competed in several semifinals. And what we experienced there, from me as a coach perspective, is that I started to see that she was ready. And what I meant by that is, like, psychologically and emotionally, she has this ability to rise to the occasion when it's 3, 2, 1, go. I've seen Rachel struggle in training with several different things and might not look at a certain workout or a certain movement as like, hey, this is going to work out in our favor. But then when it matters most, she's able to answer the call. And of course, there's some psychology and emotional advantage and history there. Probably from her parents and her pedigree to her athletic background. She was a Division I soccer player at Utah State, where she was a goalkeeper. And so pressure is something that she tends to respond pretty good to. And knowing my clients and knowing everyone is very different in this way. That's not where she needs to be coached as much. And what we needed is to bring up some of these capacities, but also allow her strengths to make up for where she lacks. Then in a series of competitions, we're able to hit some home runs and create buffers for opportunities where we might take hits on points. And now our goal is to simply build up those hits where we take hits on points and allow her to be more well-rounded. So that weekend at NorCal this year was an opportunity for her to let all of that come to fruition And it certainly was that opportunity. She was in on this. She won the online qualifier there. So for me, as a storytelling perspective, in my mind, I reminded her of that going into the weekend, that people weren't showing her respect or appreciation for the fitness that she gave in as example by winning the online qualifier. The girls that were going to outperform her or be picked to outperform her didn't earn the right to be there. They simply, based on their pedigree and history in the sport, got invitations to be there. Now, is that wrong? I don't think so. But that's leverage for me as a coach to remind her, to have a fueling source of like, hey, these girls, they're here on entitlement and history. And that doesn't matter in our sport. Every year you've got to show up and earn your right. So that was a little bit of the mindset going in. And there were several events that we had nailed going into the weekend. And one day, I maybe throughout this summer, I'll share some of these text messages after I get Rachel's permission on like the way that I would talk to her before the event, or maybe the night before the event, or before we met up for the warm up, right? Because I want her as an athlete to have this story in her mind of how it will go, how it will feel, and when it should feel that way, and specific cues that she needs to be solely focused on in order to have our intended or goal outcome. So I do that in different ways for different people, but I think it would be a good idea to share a little bit of that, because I think it would be highlighting to understand how a coach like me operates with high performers, because it's different for everyone. But there's a lot of coaches who don't do a lot of coaching. There are people who are great program designers in our space, and I see it all the time. I see it now that I'm in the back often with athletes. I see it often where there's not a lot of coaching and cueing and movement correction and cues that give people directive things to focus on in a workout. Instead, they're yelling inspirational phrases and things that might get someone hyped. But who needs to be hyped? When you're at a semifinal, or you're doing the open, or you're doing a quarterfinal, who needs to be hyped up to go? No one that's there. They need coaching, they need guidance and leadership. So anyways, this is just a personal opinion. I could go on a rant there, and probably, when Chance is here, maybe we could have an episode about that. Like, what is real coaching? What is the value of real coaching? What should that look like even for elite competitors? What should it look like for the everyday athlete? And then the harder question, which there is no difference. What's the difference? And why do people think there is? There's not. Nonetheless, I digress. I'm not going to the CrossFit Games because I'm going to coach. I'm Coach Conway. I'm going to coach. I'm not professional athlete Conway. I'm not semi-professional athlete Conway. I'm Coach Conway. And so throughout my history and my years, I've had a lot of athletes, and it's harder for me to get someone to the CrossFit Games from this infancy of either getting their first muscle up. Shout out to Rochelle Hudson, who's now a member of the CrossFit Fort Vancouver team under Adam Neifer, with a great team of 3 other athletes that came together this year with the intention to go to the CrossFit Games, and they did that thing. Rochelle made it to her first semifinal last year, and she got her first ring muscle up 3 seasons ago. And I was telling her on a call recently that in my mind and my perception, I don't know how many athletes are with the coach that they got their first ring muscle up with and they're on the CrossFit Games floor with. There's not many in today's sport, because athletes often go through these renditions of coaches, right? They go through coaches at the affiliate. They help them get their baseline skills. They do the ring muscle ups. They learn how to walk on their hands. They get their lifts in a certain way. Then there might be this second coach that helps them build capacity and might have the wherewithal, the knowledge to get them to the next level, whether it's quarter or semifinal type experiences. And then they look for the other coaches that work with other games athletes. And a lot of coaches that have games athletes didn't get those athletes to the games, right? Just look around our space and start to understand the handoffs and the transitions that athletes make. This is a rare air and rare experience, which is another reason that I've got to soak it in and really inhale and exhale this experience completely as a coach and as a leader, because it's few and far between in today's sport from a team, elite team, and elite individual perspective. I think it's much more common in the age groups, of course, teens and masters. I've had that experience as well, and I love it tremendously. Nonetheless, I'm looking forward to the CrossFit Games. It's going to be 20 events. We'll be out there all week. Chans and I will be around. If you guys see us and you know us, or if you don't know us, but you know of us through podcasting or seeing me on commentary or whatever, show us some love. We'd love to chat with you. I also had to turn down commentary this year. I wasn't asked to do the commentary for the individuals because they got the elite tandem back, Chase and Sean Woodland. And I work with both those guys. Of course, I work with Sean Woodland the last 4 years at the Rogue Invitational. Tremendous blessing for me. I love it so much. And he's my right hand, the man that kind of carries the show. And then I've gotten to work with Chase Ingram. Chase Ingram is the one that got me into my very first commentary opportunities through being on podcasts together. And then he was just like, hey man, would you want to do this stuff? And I'm like, I'd love to try, bro. And he was the one that taught me a lot of things that I know, helped me get my feet wet. The first semifinal I ever worked with was Joel Gadet in Canada at, I'm not the Atlas Games. Was it the Atlas Games? Forgive me for forgetting the name of it, but it was amazing experience, and I learned a lot. And then immediately I got invited to the CrossFit Games. So I had to decline that opportunity on the team side and then be tied in a little bit with those guys for the individuals because, again, coaching, right? And I thought I was going to compete, and I didn't know about the overlap. And now finding out that the events start on Wednesday, it was a no-brainer for me. I got to turn down the competing too, and it's a blessing. Not every year will be like this. I know it. So I got to take the opportunity now. And hopefully there's years ahead of me where I'll be asked to be on the commentary again, to use my skill set, the way that I talk about the athletes and know the sport. And I pray that I'm also healthy enough to be able to be out there and rub shoulders with some of those age group guys. And they won't always be in the same weekend at the same facility and at the same time again too. So maybe that'll help me be able to participate in that down the road. But nonetheless, a couple questions that we've been getting, and I want to hit this with the Q&A real quick. First question, what do we got? First question is, why you got the bleached hair, Coach AC? What's going on? Well, guys, in case you didn't know, I'm 40, and this is what a midlife crisis looks like. Just kidding, but seriously. I told my wife that. But my son asked me to do it with him. My son bleached his hair right before football season last year. He really loved it. He wanted to do it again this summer. He asked me if I'd do it. I did it with him. We went through the process. It was actually really fun, and I'm glad we got to do that. And I don't mind it, and my wife likes it, so that's all that matters, people. Hopefully, you think it's cool or you think I'm crazy, because either way, I could care less. But I'm kind of digging it. We'll see what it looks like as it grows out, and we'll see what's up. All right, next question. Okay. What is the hybrid coaching like? So recently we just released True Hybrid Coaching. This is individual design programming, but it's not one-to-one. It's team-to-one program design. Now, here's the idea, is that we have ranges for our one-to-one coaching that range all the way from $325 a month to $600 a month. And it depends on what you do, who you're working with, to what degree you're working with, what kind of touch points you want with this person, right? Like this is all very high level stuff towards the steep end, and then less touches and less involvement on the other end. So this price point is not realistic for many people, specifically many people that want to stick with it long term and develop themselves the way that it needs to be done. And we've got a slew of clients, folks that go from, hey, coach, I'm 32 years old and I want to qualify when I'm 35 years old, to the CrossFit Games. Hey, coach, I am 40 years old and I want to get ready for when I'm 45 to be in that group because I'm not ready yet. I know it's going to take time. We've got athletes who have been with us for 4 to 5 years plus. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that financially, this was a way for Chance and myself to allow us to be available to work as a team to take on more clients at a lower cost rate. Now, this will be the first time that I'm sharing this publicly, but the cost rate is at $250 a month for one-to-one for individual design programming. You still get a call monthly with Coach Chance. You get a call quarterly with me. I'm going to oversee a lot of the program design. He's going to put it in a lot of times and oversee the program design from an origin perspective. If we see an athlete that we need to tandem for particular reasons, where I'm developing their strength progressions and he's developing their gymnastics, or if he has a skill set to take on and be more invested with an age group athlete than I do currently, or I'm going to be somewhere and he's going to be somewhere. The idea was for us to create an opportunity for us to tandem, co-work with individual athletes. So this isn't a template-based training. This is something where you're going to get both of us. Both of us are going to be involved in your process. Both of us are going to be involved in your touch points. He's going to oversee the bulk of the program input, and then he will be the one that you interact with most frequently. And I will still be directly involved with all the things that finalize before they even get put into your CoachRx platform. So the idea is for us to tandem do this. You're getting multiple years of experience to work with the client, or work with coaches. You're getting less of an investment, and hopefully it's something that you feel like you can stick with and stay with more long-term and financially be able to make those sacrifices happen. So the goal would be for us to bring value, to certainly be over delivering for the price that is asked of the individual, and to make it more realistic for us to be able to impact positively more people who want an individual design experience but are currently being priced out of the market. So I hope that's the experience that people are looking for. We still I have potentially 2 more slots. I've got a couple athletes making the hard choice now after we've had our discovery calls about one-to-one coaching. But I've basically got 2 available slots. So if anyone's looking to really invest in their long-term journey and want solely me and my attention, of course, we can explore that schedule call. And Chance has, I think recently, he's got several slots still available. So the way that works is he's got a Calendly link in his uh, Instagram profile that you can schedule calls with him. But he's got a lot going on too, being a 14-year affiliate owner. I think I wrote that wrong on the post the other day. But guys and girls, please go reference the Instagram slides that I created that are listed True Hybrid Coaching, and all the details are there. And if you're interested in one-to-one, we still got you. We still got room. And hopefully that's still true when you listen to this podcast episode. So that's a brief on the hybrid coaching. We can talk about it more also next time I get Chan's on, because he can answer some questions as well about maybe his style, how it works, expect. Last question that we got time for, because I got about 5 minutes. What does games training look like now for your athletes? Well, it looks like a lot of things. It looks like me diving into history. Dave Castro has made it public knowledge that this CrossFit Games will be a year like no other. And so that alludes me to believe that while looking back and knowing the history of this sport, because I love and nerd out about that, will give me value, but only some value. And what I'm hopeful of is that to be a very unique experience. What I'm actually expecting in my own mind, in my coach's mind, and I'll just be public with this, is that through 20 tests, there's going to be some really big outliers, really big opportunities for whether 50 points or 100 points to be gathered by individuals who can excel at what they're good at. To me, this is a year where athletes have to lean into what they're good at and be prepared to manage what they're not good at. Now, when I think about this, of course, I'm not going to make any predictions or anything, because all my money is going to be on my athlete, Rachel Noel, on the female side. But when I look at 20 tests in the men's field and looking at the season that Mr. Medeiros has had on the men's side, how he had a letdown at Torian, how he's disappointed about that, how he came out and now he seemed to be firing on some pretty great cylinders in the semifinal. And then to know that there will be 20 separate scored events at the CrossFit Games, and we're trying to find the fittest on earth, I think he's going to be hard to beat. The more scores that exist, he's going to be harder to beat. Now, my prediction is this, that the first 2 days are going to feel a little less like traditional CrossFit in the affiliate and a little bit more like, if you guys are level 1 coaches, what we allude to in the What is Fitness lecture, where we might be testing these 10 general physical skills, and a lot of them might be separate from one another. Or we're going to get this introduction on Saturday night or Friday night, whatever night it is, where we bust out the hopper, right? And so we have this unpredictability, this unique circumstance for the unknown that's going to happen. And so athletes are going to have to balance this psychological and emotional tolerance of the ups and the downs of the weekend, because I think there will be many with 20 events. And they need to be physically prepared for CrossFit the last 2 days, right? And what I mean by CrossFit is, like, think of the semifinal workouts. Think about traditionally, think about Rich Froning. Okay, think about Rich. Think about what happens during the first 2 days of competition historically in the 4 years that he's been the fittest on earth, and then what happens on the final day and a half. And he just racking up them 100 points because he's the fittest on earth, and because, well, he's really good at the shoulder and overhead games, right? His positions are unmatched. His movement efficacy is amazing. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty and you're doing couplets and triplets and chippers, and it's thrusters and handstand walking and pistols and deadlifts and the things, ring muscle ups, the things that we know come up on .com and come up in the quarterfinals, right? Repetitively. But it's like games loading. It's game standards. It's all of this leveled up. That's when those athletes are going to excel. But they got to have the physicality to have their bodies and their minds together in order to make those charges. That's just what I'm thinking in my mind. And that's the way that I would even look at it as an analyst, right? If I was being hired this year through CrossFit or through CrossFit to do the commentary, I'd be thinking about, like, wow, what's this test going to look like? And believe it or not, folks, we don't find out hardly anything earlier than the athletes do. And for me, it would be like, okay, this is what my assumptions are going to be about the testing at the Red Barn. And as we're traveling through the city of San Jose and we're doing all these different things, I'm like, okay, it's going to feel a little bit outside of our scope for a while. And then we're going to hit the ground running when we get inside that stadium. And it's going to be a 2.5 day onslaught of ramped up benchmark style workouts. And when I say benchmark workouts, if you guys don't know them, do your homework. Elizabeth, Diane, Fran, Karen, Kelly, these workouts that are potent were named after women because people got their theories, but they were devastating and they left you in a heap of pain, as Greg Glassman once kind of alluded to. But that's what I think. And so to answer this question, because I've been doing a bunch of around the question answering or meandering, CrossFit Games training looks like getting good without objects, training weaknesses just like we do all year round, spending a little bit more time on those weaknesses, not now necessarily, but just spending more time on those weaknesses than we do maybe the odd object stuff, right? Like that's what you visit still most often. It's just a little bit in less dosing. So if someone needs to get better at pistols, for example, they got to touch pistols a couple times a week because I don't want them to have that as a super glaring weakness at the games and feel like they've also made some progress. If it's rope climbs, it's the same thing. If it's handstand walking, same thing. Handstand push-up, same thing, right? That's the idea. But to also leave a component left of training where these things that this athlete is good at, they got to be good at them. And they got to feel good about it taking the floor there. Because when we get an opportunity to go, we're going. Okay. So that's the idea. That's how my athletes will train. A lot of carrying, a lot of running, a lot of swimming, a lot of biking, both on the road, both running in the trails. But again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, folks. So if you want to know why my athletes are going to be prepared, it's because of the things I say to them and share with them, help allude to them, help communicate to them. And because I've been to the CrossFit Games as a competitor, because I've been to the games on a team, because I've been to the games as an age group, because I've been in the commentary seat, because I teach the level 1 and level 2. These things right now, that's the value that I bring. So I got to be in my service bag, right? I've got to be in the full communication bag. I got to be like, hey, this is what it's like between events. This is what you need to come in your kit. This is what needs to be in your kit. You need to make sure those sizes are good. You need to make sure that, right? Like these things from experience. Some people don't have that. And that's what I bring to the table. So the idea there is that we're going to help prepare our team. Chan's also has been there. He's coached people at the CrossFit Games 3 different years. So we've got that in our bag together. And I hope that we're going to help our athletes regardless of where they finish. When they finish the 5-day test that they face, we want them to feel like, hey, we did the best that we could and we were as prepared as we could have been to nail it. Last thing that I'll say is what I'll make sure my athletes do is what I didn't do in 2015 as an individual when I finished 21st at the CrossFit Games, which was I showed up at about 80% of my fitness. I had an injury that I didn't rest enough going in. I showed up a little bit flat and underfueled. There were things that happened that year. There were changes in the back where food wasn't prepared for the athletes and given to them like it had been in years past. There were a lot of things that we were evolving as a sport because it was growing tremendously and becoming more professionalized. But back in the day, folks, you would have like this buffet of food. There would be snacks. There would be stuff in the back that we would just all share and like be able to pick through and eat. That stuff went away. And for me, I was a little bit ill prepared for that. So my lack of adaptability and foresight there, the time that I spent away from the competition, like right when we finished, get out of there, go get in my ice tub, personal ice tub, get away from the other competitors, get out of the music and I was there experiencing it with my family, walking around Vendor Village still, like these things I did. I wasn't a web celebrity, so people didn't bother me when I was doing those things either. And it was awesome. If I taught their level 1, they would come talk to me and it was great, but I love that. But when you show up to the CrossFit Games as a competitor, that's not what we're doing. That's not why we're there. You can go as a spectator and do all the spectator things. So also, I'll be having my athletes dialed in there from a mental standpoint because those are things that I whiffed on. But I showed up at 80% of my 100%. And what I want to make sure is that my clients show up 100%, even if that means they feel like they're a little under prepared. This is going to sound backwards, and it would make many athletes panic. But this is where I try to gain their trust and understanding from my experience. It's better to show up with all your sauce, all your juice, all your power, and to feel like you didn't do quite enough than it is to feel like you did more than enough and you're a fraction of yourself as an athlete. I learned that. I felt like I nailed that in 21 when I went back in the 35 to 39 category. I felt really good. I felt healthy, and I had a knockout time competing with those guys and got on the podium. So anyways, long-winded story. Folks, we're back to podcasting on a regular basis. I'm going to try to get up another episode throughout the course of this weekend as well. So anyways, glad to be back. You know what I'm going to say. Go to the website, truefitness.com. Check out my Instagram, @Adrian Conway _ We have got all access programming where you get a week free and you get access to 8 live tracks. It's ridiculous. It's $19.99 a month. Jump on that at minimum. And then also we've got some really fun stuff coming out from a mentorship perspective. I've been able to serve several coaches over the last 2 years in a mentorship role. That's also a premium cost. And some of these folks that come to level 1s and level 2s asking me about mentorship simply can't afford what we've offered so far. And I'm working on something for everybody else that might feel like they want more of a long-term exposure, group experience with mentorship, where we have weekly calls as a community and we're learning and growing together. There's some accountability things that would follow up with that, homework that would follow up with that, but it'll be a cost that people can afford. And every month we'll just be on this call. And when you can't make it, you watch the recording and do the things. So nonetheless, it's there. I'm going through the level 4 process right now. I'm submitting my video today. So hopefully that goes smoothly, at least getting it going. And then, of course, I'll keep you guys in the loop of what that journey is like for me to pursue the level 4 as that's obviously the goal because that's the best level that's available to me right now. Nonetheless, have fun. Have a great weekend. Keep rising. Reach out with questions, comments, and concerns so we can do these Q&As more often. Appreciate y'all.